Gentlemen, please welcome to the stage NAWB Vice Chair Andrew Bursich.
Good morning, everyone. I'm going to ask you to bear with my froggy voice here. This is starting to feel a little bit like the 99th hour of the Jerry Lewis telethon this week. Fortunately, I still have my tie on, my hair isn't messy, and my jokes are much worse than Jerry's. So we really appreciate everyone coming out today as we focus on policy. Many of you are about to hit the Hill, like myself. I'll be heading out this afternoon to talk with some of the members of our delegation. And today is really where the rubber meets the road. We talked earlier this week about this being the last mile of job creation. And we only do that with your help. It's you getting into the offices of your representatives and of folks on the appropriations and the help committees and all those folks that have really the future of our industry and the future of your workers in their hands. And so as you get there today, you'll hear from Ron a little bit later. What are the things that are important to NAWB that we think you should share? But I would encourage you to also share stories. If you have a great story of a job seeker who got a $20,000 raise because of the work that you've done, share that. If you have a story of an employer who expanded their business because you were able to support them, share that story. Stories matter. You matter. We all matter. And the people that you're going to meet with this week matter. Someone else that matters, and matters very much to me, is Colorado Governor John Hickenlooper, and I'm proud to be able to introduce him today. As many of you know, I am from Colorado, and this is an individual, a leader, who has, much like the folks that we're working with, reinvented himself time and time again. Starting as a geologist in the oil boom of the 80s, and when that boom went away, became, I think, what has endeared him to so many Coloradans, a beer maker. And then selflessly gave of himself to become Denver's mayor, and now our governor. And who knows what the future holds, right? All right, so he currently serves on the Western Governors Association and previously served as chairman of the NGA. He has set the following workforce priorities for Colorado: improving access to resources in the talent development system, increasing job placement rate, retention, and wage growth in the state program. And we have fantastic in Colorado, fantastic unemployment rates. Our system has done an amazing job as not just an engine of job placement, but of job creation work, and economic development would be happy to talk to any of you about that. He's also set priorities for easing the equity gap. He has a goal of having students graduate high school and being ready not only for college, but also for careers. We were just talking in the green room about how there's a huge sense of importance on skills, more so than even a four-year degree, right? So we look forward to hearing more of his wisdom and insights. So please welcome to the stage, and again, give him a very, very huge round of applause, Colorado Governor John Hickenlooper.
Thank you, Andrew Bursich. That was way too nice. And I want to prepare you all. You know, those 15 years I was a brewer, but we also had a restaurant. It was a brew pub. So all those years of going to bed late, getting up late, I'm not always at my best first thing in the morning. Just to let everyone know, diminished expectations never hurts. Want to thank Andrew for that nice introduction and for all the work he's been doing in Colorado and as vice chair of this organization. Beth Cobert is here. She is the CEO of Skillful, and I'll talk more about that in a little bit. Also here is Joe Barella, who's the director of Skillful Colorado. And also here is William Dowling, Employment and Training Division Director for the Colorado Division of Labor and Employment, who have been obviously great part. Yes, give them the hand. And I also want to give a big shout out to Ron Painter. An organization like this with so many different people and personalities and doing such important work. I know that as a matter of fact, I was in the hotel bar last night for a variety of reasons, probably none of them what you think. I got back in late from an event, actually an amazing event at the African American History Museum on the mall, and got back at like 10:30 to get something to eat. And to listen, I love to sometimes be a fly on the wall and hear the arguments and the passion that goes on at a convention of any sort. And this was about as good as it gets. A lot of pride and a lot of commitment. In Colorado, when I first ran and I'd never ran for student council or class president in my whole life. I grew up a skinny kid with like Coke bottle glasses and acne. I was, ask any of my friends in high school, the last person ever to be in a position of influence. But I ran for mayor because everyone was so cynical about every elected official, and I thought, this is America. They are us. And a big part of that was jobs, and A, having an economy that can grow, and B, making sure that we have the talent to really feed that engine. And I wanted to make Colorado, first I ran for mayor of Denver, I did that for 7 years, and then as governor, really wanted to try and see whether you could, A, cut the red tape and bureaucracy, but have the state be pro-business, but always with the highest standards, highest environmental standards, highest ethical standards. I came in, we were 40th in job creation. I think we were about 27th in unemployment. And I am, I'm an elected official, so I have a certain obligation to brag, just because governors are very competitive. But since 2011, in a state with about 5.5 million people, we've created 400,000 jobs. U.S. News and World Report ranked us as the #1 economy in the country for the second straight year last week. We went from 40th in job creation to 1st. Our unemployment rate 6 years ago was 8.2%. Now it's 3%. Last summer it went down for a couple months. It went down to 2.3%, which is sick. I mean, that's, as this room knows, that is not a good place to be. But even at 3%, this is essentially full employment, the tightest labor market in a generation. Still, a lot of people underemployed. I think you all understand that more than most rooms would. Clearly, there's continues to be a significant skills gap. And the two things that struck me 6 years, almost 7 years ago, about the issues around workforce. One, that 30% of our kids somehow will go and get a 4-year college degree, but that 70% wouldn't. And for the last 30 years, we've been sort of telling them that if they don't get that 4-year college degree, somehow they're not good enough. They're second-class citizens. And as we've been doing that, we've entered this fourth industrial revolution where automation is going to displace huge numbers of people. I mean, millions and millions of people are going to lose not only their job, but their profession. And I know what that's like. When I came out to Colorado in 1981 as a geologist, I thought I'd be a geologist my whole life. And yet when the price of oil collapsed and that industry turned upside down, and I got a severance package, when I left, I thought I'd go out and find another job. But everyone, when your profession disappears, everyone's laying off people at the same time. No one's hiring. And it's tough, well, you guys know this better than anybody. After about 6 or 8 months, you look in the mirror and you don't see the same person you've seen the rest of your life. You don't have the same confidence. You don't have the same sense of competency. And I think we're going to see that transition. I mean, that was just the oil and gas industry, kind of a one-off. It's a boom and bust type industry. But we're going to see that more and more as automation continues to grow. Some of the studies show that roughly 50% of the jobs in America are jobs that are done repeatedly again and again and again, right? And these aren't just like driving jobs, but they're data collection, or data analysis. These are jobs that are going to be done, whether we like it or not, by machines within the next decade. The key is we're going to have plenty of jobs created, but the jobs that are being created have very different skills needs than what we've been doing. And we've been sending all these kids, many of them, to college to get degrees that, and again, I'm a liberal arts, I'm a product of Wesleyan University in Connecticut, a liberal arts school. I learned how to learn. I believe in that, but I also believe that people have to get a job. I also believe that kids shouldn't come out when they're 22 and have $60,000 or $70,000 worth of debt. And I'm not in any way diminishing four-year degrees. As I said, I think it's important, but we've got to look at some of the opportunities around skills. We've got to look at the attainment gaps that we see, right? That for generations, we've segregated skills and the opportunity for people to really acquire skills that are meaningful to them, that will change their lives. And I think as we have what we call creative destruction in the industrial world, we've got to have creative instruction in our workforce areas in every place. So our high schools, our community colleges, up and down the line. For me, it was I had found a friend who was in the restaurant business, so I've been out of work for about, I think it was a little embarrassing. I was totally, before we finally got the restaurant open, it was 2 years. But it was a year before I really started working full-time trying to open this restaurant, which was crazy in itself. I'd never worked in a restaurant a day in my life. But I had a friend who walked me through and allowed me to be an apprentice. And I think that kind of exposure, I was a little old to be an apprentice, a little long of a tooth, but we're going to see that a lot more. We're going to have to see that. We're going to have to encourage that to make sure that we have an alignment of what people's skills are and what they and what the needs are. And every big software system we put into the state of Colorado, and this is without exception, I keep teasing our head of technology, our chief information officer and secretary of technology, keep saying, so now we've got this great $100 million software system. Where are the job savings? Oh, Governor, no. Actually, we're going to have to hire more people, but this software is going to allow us to do 100 times more than we used to do and 100 times faster. And that key there is all those jobs are going to get created, and they're going to be technician jobs. I mean, some of them are going to be, obviously, we're going to need many, many more electrical engineers and people that are way down that education pipeline. But we're going to need a tremendous number of people that are going to be data analysts, and they're going to be technicians of one sort or another. So when I came in as governor, I had a friend came to me about 6 years ago and described sort of what I was just saying, that we have this huge, he had an advanced manufacturing company, couldn't find staff, and he asked me if I would work with him, if he could go out and start working on apprenticeships. He'd had a friend, and they'd gone to Switzerland and seen the model in Switzerland. And so we agreed that this would be one of my highest priorities, and we would start putting real attention into it. We created the Workforce and Education Committee within the cabinet. So we had 8 different agencies that were all going to get out of their silos and work together on this and make sure that we had real alignment. And we came up with several outcomes of this, 2-generation work. We realized that in a lot of these issues around the acquisition of skills, it's the family situation, not just the high school student themselves, but it's their parents. And we're tied into these generational issues. And we really began looking at many of our social services as a 2-generation issue, and making sure that workforce training and human services were being addressed together. We began also looking at within the state government at lean projects. And I'm a great believer, one of the troubles with the country is we're not aggressively trying to be more efficient and more effective at everything we do, and people don't believe in government. Obviously, we have people running in campaigns, and this is not just in Washington, but all over the country, that are attacking government and trying to destroy people's belief in government, which, again, we should recognize this is a pretty fragile form of democracy we have, and it demands that people believe in it. So we've done now 600 lean process improvement alignments in the state of Colorado. And part of that is we have 8 different strategies to make sure we better align the assistance we provide to job seekers. We've now gone through all the rules in the state of Colorado, all 22,000, and either simplified or eliminated almost half of them. And I think a lot of it, when we're doing gun safety, we passed universal background checks back in 2014. And during that process, my son, I was complaining because it was hard work. And my son came in one day and said, Dad, at this point he was in 6th grade, he said, Dad, what do you do at work all day that's so hard? Make decisions? I said, well, Teddy, it's not as easy as you think. He says, Dad, get the facts, make a decision, check, next. I said, Teddy, trust me, it's not. He goes, Dad, get the facts, make a decision, check, next. He goes, every day I've got to go into school and learn something completely new I didn't know existed the day before. If I don't get it completely right, my next day is misery because everything's based on the day before. After 5 minutes, I said, you're right, 6th grade is harder than being governor. But I think in a funny way, he's right. Don't ever and the other thing, he heard, I told that same story on Colorado Public Radio. One of his friends at school heard it. They got a link. He heard it. He came back and said, Dad, I hear you're using my ideas. I said, Teddy, I gave you complete credit. Complete credit. He says, Dad, I'm not talking about credit. I go, what do you mean? He goes, Dad, do you know what the word royalty means? I'm not making this up, 6th grade. So our schools are still succeeding in certain ways. Anyway, we took a lot of the work we were doing in the state, and this guy, Noel Ginsburg, is the one who came and really pushed. We took 55 people to Switzerland. We had the CEOs of 7 of our largest companies, 5 of our largest foundations. We had the head of higher education in the state, the head of community colleges. We had the head of almost all of our education institutions. And we really looked at how do these apprenticeships work so it's not just about plumbing and electricians, it's about banking and insurance, IT, business operations. So we're now on our third year of pilots. We're up to 250 students. We've got 80 companies where these kids go and they work 2 days the first year and then 3 days the second year. And then the first year they have 3 days of school, 2 days of school in the second year. And in their school, they go to either a community college and a couple of the larger school districts have their own center for this. But they learn what they're studying in their last 2 years of high school, what would have been their last 2 years of high school. They're learning the skills that make them more successful where they're working. They love it. The businesses love it. It's been hugely successful, and we're hopefully within a decade have 20,000 kids in these apprenticeships. One of the most exciting things I've ever been involved in. We also, CareerWise is one arrow in the quiver. We've also been working with Skillful. It's a partnership with the Markle Foundation in New York and the LinkedIn, and LinkedIn was then purchased by Microsoft. But it really helps people of all ages. It starts with kids, but people of all ages to navigate their careers. It helps employers to communicate in language these kids of all ages understand. And it really is tremendously exciting to imagine a platform. This is a technology platform that really encourages people as they go through life to accumulate skills. And it's really a skills-based discussion and measuring competencies so that employers and potential employees are on the same page. And they both understand what's important. And at some point, and we're not there yet, but at some point down the road, we'll get to a point where when you see your profession's about to get kind of pushed aside, you have the opportunity to, through this website, look at other professions where you have some foundational skills and click on your set of skills and then click on that profession, and then it'll show you what skills you're missing and where you can get them. And I think at scale, we're going to have to do this at immense levels once we really get this up, because again, as automation eliminates professions, this is one of the key things. We've got actually 3, I think, like CareerWise and like Skillful, 3 programs, and we're trying to figure out what the right name. Now, everyone at the Department of Employment, they're calling it Talent Found. Me, I'm not quite so sure. I don't know if you guys have ever heard the soundtrack to Hamilton. There's that wonderful song, I'm not throwing away my shot. I'm not throwing away, I own myself individually with my own money. I own myshot.com, myshot.org, myshot.co. Anyway, we'll see what it's finally called in the end. Let me finish and just say, as a geologist and a brewer who really did have to reinvent myself, I did have some support from government. I had some support. I was literally an apprentice in a restaurant to get those skills that I needed. I know what that's like. And you know, when you guys were, as I was being introduced by Andrew, that notion that you can tell stories is incredibly powerful and incredibly important. And I would echo what his directions to go out, collect those stories, find the right avenues in social media to make sure they get heard, because that's a big part of what the solution is going to be. Now, I know sometimes it seems, given the political situation we see sometimes and the realities in our own communities, it seems hard. And I'll tell you the story about when I first ran for mayor of Denver in 2003. And again, I'd never even run for student council. And I had these young volunteers who were so eager, and they'd get kind of frustrated. And you know, I try to pick them up. And so I carried this clipping from the Denver Post about a professor of public speaking at the University of Wyoming talking about how, she was talking to her class about how important it was to use opposites when you speak publicly. If you talk about the worst of times, talk about the best of times. You talk about the agony, talk about the ecstasy. The words gain power by being together. And she asked her class, what's the opposite of despair? Kid raised her hand and goes, joy? She goes, exactly. You want people to feel despair, use joy in the same sense. The words gain emotional impact by their proximity. Then she said, what's the opposite of woe? And a kid way in the back goes, giddy up. And I leave you with that. I leave you with that because the opposite of woe is to giddy up, right? Right when it seems most difficult, right? When they're seemingly facing their greatest challenges is when there's always opportunity. So I will help giddy up with you guys as we turn this country around. Thank you.
Thank you.